be faithful to where you are right now. I think so often we tend to look down the road at, well, I want to do this. And without realizing that God is using every single moment of every day, preparing us for something that we can't even see yet, and maybe far better than we could ever hope or dream.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to this edition of Mid-South Viewpoint. We have the pleasure today to welcoming to our program Sandi Patty. Sandi's coming here to Memphis this Friday night, October the 7th, 7 p.m. for the Forever Grateful, the Farewell Tour, featuring special guest Veritas. Sandi, welcome to Mid-South Viewpoint Bot Radio Network here in Memphis.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me on, and we are very much looking forward to Friday night.
You know, I just can't believe you're having a farewell tour. You're literally going to say goodbye to everybody?
You know, it just seems like the time is upon us. I had to really think and pray about it beginning a couple of years ago. And I knew that this year, 2016, I would turn 60. And I always want to be mindful of the art form. And so it just really felt like it was time to not necessarily say goodbye or farewell, but to say thank you to the radio stations, the newspapers, the churches, the people who've come to the concerts. I've often said, you know, I have been called by God, but it is the people I have worked for. And it's just the last opportunity to be able to say thank you.
You know, the last time we spoke, you were riding on a bus with that crazy Shonda Pierce.
And that was just one of the funnest couple of months. I love that girl so much.
Well, you
know, we had a great time on that tour.
I heard someone say that you need a certain amount of laughter in your life every day, so many minutes per day of laughter. I bet your day got its fair share traveling with Shonda.
Indeed it did. Indeed it did.
Well, Sandi, you and your husband Don live in Oklahoma, each have 4 children, 2 more, by the way, than the Brady Bunch.
Exactly.
Tell me where your kids are.
You know, for the most part, as they're, you know, all kind of grown and out of the house. So we have kids in Florida and Indiana and Nashville, Tennessee. And we have a group text that we are always, you know, conversing with everybody on. So that keeps every day fun and lets everybody know where everybody is and what they're doing.
You know, I saw Candace Cameron Bure on the Voice show last night. Her daughter actually got picked to be on, I think, Adam's team. Wow. Yeah, I thought that was pretty neat. I had a chance to do an interview with Candace a couple of years ago when she was in town. Wondering, is any of your children, are they aspiring to sing and follow in their mom's footsteps?
You know, I actually have a few kids out on the road with me who are singing with me, which makes it so very, very special this year. You know, some of my family I've had to say goodbye to so often in the past to get on the bus or get on a plane, and it's really sweet to get to have some of them on tour with me.
Well, are you getting into the cowgirl scene, wearing boots and riding horses, living in Oklahoma, because you're an Indiana girl?
I am an Indiana girl, but I have to say that I did buy myself a pair of cowboy boots when I got to Oklahoma, and they are the most comfortable shoes I have ever had.
Are they the pointed toe or the square toe?
Oh, pointed.
They're a real cowgirl. Sandi, where did your love for music begin? Was it in the home? Was it through school? Or where did you start taking an interest in music?
I grew up in a very musical family. My dad and mom are both wonderful musicians. And my mom's a great pianist. My dad was a minister of music all of my growing up. So my 2 younger brothers and I, we just kind of grew up in the church and grew up with music. So I've always loved music, but really thought that I would teach school, that's kind of where my music would take me. And it wasn't until in the late 70s I began traveling with Bill and Gloria Gaither as one of their backup singers. And I was able to learn so much from them. And also just was, it was like a master class. That's what I'm trying to say. It was like a master class being with them for 4 or 5 years. And then they let me sing a solo at the end of the night, which was a brand new song 30 years ago called We Shall Behold Him. And that just began to open up some doors for me to do some traveling. And this wannabe school teacher has had a little bit of a different trajectory because of doors God has opened.
You know, I remember when you came to Memphis with the Gaithers. That was over 30 years ago. You sang at the Mid-South Coliseum. I was in the very back. I'm glad you can hit those high notes because they reached way up there where I was sitting in the nosebleed section. But you sang that song, We Shall Behold Him. And I was ready to step into glory after that night.
Well, Dottie Rambo certainly wrote such a beautiful, anointed, very blessed song. And I feel so grateful I've gotten to sing that all these years.
Well, you mentioned your parents were very musical. Aside from them, were there another artist or particular style of music that inspired you, that you were attracted to?
Well, I and still am a huge fan of Karen Carpenter's music and Barbra Streisand's music. So I just, Barbra Streisand was my vocal coach. Although I never met her, it was just from, listening to her recording that I just really learned a whole lot about how to tell a story in a song.
Well, do you remember your first vocal teacher?
Probably my earliest vocal teacher was my dad, but it wasn't until I got to college that I began studying voice seriously. And my teacher, Greta Dominic, was just one amazing teacher and singer.
When was the first time, Sandi, you actually sang in a public event?
My dad said I was about 2.5 years old. We were living in Oklahoma City at the time, and my dad was a minister of music there, and he had me sing Jesus Loves Me. And he said I was 2.5, and he stood me up on this little stool so everyone could see me. And
oh, my. Another time you were in Memphis, I had the privilege of introducing you when you sang at the Ellis Auditorium, which is no more. They've torn that down and built this, the Cannon Center, where the Memphis Symphony Orchestra performs. But I remember my wife was with us. She was on like the first or second row, and I introduced you. You came out. She was pregnant with our first son, who is 32 and living with his wife in Nicaragua.
Oh, my goodness. Where do the years go?
Isn't it crazy how fast they go? Yes. That's about the time you were pregnant with, is it your daughter, your oldest child?
Yeah. Her name is Anna. She's also 32. She and her husband have 2 kids. So this is a new fun grandparenting season. We
have our first granddaughter. It is so much fun.
We've lost our minds.
Yeah. And we have the right to now. We're grandparents.
Absolutely.
Well, when you talk about stage performance, has there been any personal fears or obstacles that you've had to overcome when you get ready to perform?
I always get nervous, and I know that surprises people, but I always do. And I've just learned over the years how to kind of work through that. My mom told me a long time ago that if I stop getting nervous, that means I've stopped caring about what I'm doing. So it's a good thing to be a little bit nervous.
I appreciate you sharing that because I've been in broadcasting for many, many years. I still get nervous, too, on certain interviews, but I find myself stopping and praying, and I think I'm that much more dependent upon God, I believe.
That is exactly right. I when I get a chance and sort of do a master class at different universities or things like that, I always tell the kids, there's a difference. Like, if you're going to go and take a math test and you have not studied and prepared, you are going to be nervous. And you should be. But if you've studied and prepared, you're still going to have some nerves, but you have a foundation of your preparation. And it's the same with, a concert or a recital or whatever. The more preparation that you can have doesn't mean it's going to take the nerves away, but they're just going to look a little bit different, and you can rely on that foundation of asking God to be your guide, doing your part in preparation, and then just trusting what you know to be true.
That is a really good word, Sandi. Well, we talked about you traveling with Shonda. I know you've also been on stage with Mark Lowry and other funny folks. But as you look over your career on stage, off stage, what are something really funny situation or something that happened to you on tour?
Oh, goodness. I think probably the one thing that comes to mind, and it certainly wasn't funny to me at the time, but I was doing an event it was a summer event for seniors. It was an RV convention, and every night, there was a planned program for the people who, would drive across country. And I just remember one night, that particular night, that there was a man who was so upset about the sound. And the orchestra wasn't even mic'd. I was the only thing that was on the mic. That he took his cane and started beating on my sound guy. Again, it wasn't funny then, but as I look back on it, it's definitely kind of funny.
Oh, wow. Those are great times. Well, with 5 Grammy Awards, 4 Billboard Music Awards, 3 Platinum records, 5 Gold records, and 11 million units sold, with all that, what has brought you the greatest personal fulfillment in your career?
I think, I was a little bit of a shy kid, and words were hard for me. And so the personal joy for me all of these years has been able to find songs that help me say what is on my heart. That's really why I fell in love with music in the first place, is I'd hear a song and I would think, that's how I feel. So, there's not a lot different. And I think that has been one of the greatest joys, is just to be able to sing about my faith, to sing about God's love, to sing about, when life gets broken, to sing about all of those kinds of things from a real personal, from a personal place.
Yeah. Talk about the process for you to own a song. I know there's songs that people have written for you to sing, and probably some you've written yourself, but how do you make a song your own?
It's got I always, whenever I'm, doing a project and working on getting songs, I always look at the lyrics first. It's just got to say something. And then I'll listen to the music. I haven't typically written my stuff in the past, so I've relied on other people to help me say, what is on my heart. So I'll always read the lyrics first. And then when I listen to the demo and I'm thinking, this matches, what's happening to the lyrics, then I know that it's a good song. But I have to be able, if I were just reading the lyrics to you, I want very much to be able to say that is exactly how I feel.
I like that. Is there a theme song out of all the songs you've sung over the years? Is there one particular song that really, like a theme for your life?
Yeah, there actually is. It's an old hymn, His Eye is on the Sparrow. And, there just have been different seasons in my life where, the verse is, why should I feel discouraged? Why should the shadows come? Why should my heart be lonely and long for heaven's home when Jesus is my portion? My constant friend is he. His eye is on the sparrow, and that's how I can know that he watches over me. I've sung that at a lot of different seasons seasons in my life, and it just is that song that I come back to time and time again to say, I sing because I'm happy, and I sing because I'm free. It just is that simple.
You know, people are walking even today, Sandi, maybe listening, going through some pretty deep valleys, you know, and it's easy to let the circumstances of those events in our life to cloud the fact that His eye really is on us through those times.
Very, very much so. And I'm really so thankful that we are in a season where the church body is acknowledging that life is tough. You know, there are divorce recovery workshops, and there's, 12-step groups, and there's children of divorce. And, I think it's the church's way of saying, which I don't think the church really knew how to say that before, is the church is really saying, you know what, we're with you in all the seasons of your life. And standing with somebody doesn't necessarily mean you agree with all of their decisions, but it just means you don't withdraw your love from them. And I think that's one thing that I love, that the church is really starting to speak louder, that this is a safe place for you to come, for you to heal.
Well, the church really needs to be the perfect place for imperfect people, you know?
Yes, indeed it does. And so often, I guess in my generation, you know, you'd go to church and go, how are you? Hey, great. When your life is just hurting and falling apart. And I think that it is becoming not just having a room called a sanctuary, but I think it really is becoming a sanctuary.
Oh, that's a great word, too. Hey, if you were getting on the bus this week doing your very first concert tour, just like it was from day one, what would you do different knowing all the stuff you know right now?
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, I'd be getting in a van that I would help drive. But you know what I would do is I would absolutely surround myself with a group of women who are farther along on the journey than I am, and commit myself to an accountability process with them and be very real with them. That is absolutely something that I would do different, for sure. I think I would try to understand. I would tell my younger artist self, you know, this is all so temporary. Who you are in the grocery store line or at a PTA meeting or in traffic matters so much more than what you do on this stage. It can complement it, but who you are is what is important. I think that's what I would try to really get my younger artist self to understand.
I think we get deceived too. You talked about that accountability. I think we're afraid to make ourselves vulnerable and transparent with others around us who oftentimes are going through similar feelings and temptations themselves.
Yeah, very much so. And you know, I realize as I look back over the seasons of my life that I have been most encouraged by other people who didn't say, hey, life is perfect, I've got it all together, but who were willing to risk and say, hey, I'm going through this or that right now. Those are the people that I have found have given me the most encouragement, because I realize I'm not alone.
Yeah. What advice do you give, Sandi, to young talent that wants to use their gifts in a music ministry similar to the way that you have all these years?
You know, the first thing that I would say is be faithful to where you are right now. I think so often we tend to look down the road at, well, I want to do this, and without realizing that God is using every single moment of every day, preparing us for something that we can't even see yet, and maybe far better than we could ever hope or dream. And so, if you are in a show choir, or if you are in your church choir, or if you've been asked to sing at this event or whatever, use those opportunities to become a better musician, to learn how to read music, be on time, stay late and help, tear down stuff. All of those things, I often will use an illustration that, remember let's see, who was it? When David was called before Saul.
Mm-hmm.
I think so.
Yeah.
And he kind of said, hey, you are going to be the next king. And what happened with David? He went back out into the field for years before God's gifting was really realized, because God was using those moments for David to ultimately understand the nature of God. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. What a great understanding David must have had of what it took to be cared for by a shepherd, because that's what he did.
Yeah.
I guess that's a really long way of saying, don't negate those opportunities that God is giving you right now.
You mentioned Bill Gaither a minute ago and the influence he's had on your life. Talk just for a second about that friendship over the years, what he's meant to encourage you, not only in your career, but even when you were going through personal struggles in life.
Bill and Gloria, they remain two of my favorite people in the whole world, but also two of the most influential people in my life and my journey. And, I felt like I was in master class watching them night after night as I got to travel with them. And then over the years, they were definitely some of those people that I would call, and I would say, hey, there's this going on, or there's that going on, this situation is happening. I don't know what to do, or what would you do, or, just those kinds of things. They have always been available to me.
Yeah.
And even now, when I'll see them here and there, it's just, Bill's just like a big brother to me. And it's just, I sure do value them so much in my life.
Well, he and the Gaithers were here at Christmas time last year, and I had a chance to visit with Bill over the phone, interview with him, and just seems to be such a real guy that loves Jesus and loves pointing other people to Jesus. Yeah.
He has always, he's always been very gracious to share his stage or whatever. And he's always said, when the night wins, everybody wins. So, it doesn't matter, like, who does what. If the audience goes home happy, if God wins, if the night was a success, everybody is the better for it.
Everybody's better.
Really, that's one of his sayings that I find myself repeating a lot.
Well, your version of our national anthem, of course, is incredible. Matter of fact, the founder and owner of our radio network, Mr. Dick Bott, featured your song on his radio show, The Complete Story, just last week. When you think about traveling over the years, as you've gone to small-town America, you've just met people, you see America from the East Coast to the West Coast, Sandi, and how God has blessed our country.
It really is. I'm so grateful for our country. Whenever I get a chance to travel, there is nothing like landing back in the United States. And is it without fault or problem? Certainly not. I mean, any relationship is not without fault or problem. But I think the best thing that we can do is show up every day and say, how can I help make it better? just to throw this out there, one of the best ways we can have a voice is to vote. We've got a big vote coming up. I'm not saying anything about who or what or anything, but that, I'll encounter a lot of people and they'll say, I don't like this or I don't like that. And I'll say, well, are you registered to vote? Oh, no, I've never voted a day in my life. It's like, well, you know what? Then sorry about you.
Yeah.
So one of the best things we can do for our voice to remain heard is to vote and to continue to pray for our country.
Well, as I mentioned, you're coming to Memphis this Friday night, October 7th, 7 o'clock, Bellevue Baptist Church. And by the way, you're going to be backed by Bellevue Choir and Orchestra under the direction of Mark Blair, who is a great guy. I understand you're going to be making a DVD, a CD of the concert, too, with their backing of you. Of course, Veritas will be with you in concert, too.
We are going to have a fabulous night. I am thrilled that we get to work with the incredible musicians under the direction of Mark. I'm so looking forward to it, and we are indeed going to do a video. We're recording a video, so we need all the laughs and claps and sing-alongs. We want to pack out the place and just have a great representation for the video we're doing.
Sandi, I also want to mention as we wrap up our program that World Vision is sponsoring, I guess, the entire farewell tour, I believe.
They are, and I went on a very reluctant trip with them about 20 years ago. I kind of just didn't want to invest in that because I thought it cannot be as bad as they say. But I tell you what, ever since I went on my very first trip, I have just been committed within my heart and to tell their story. That is one way we can make a difference in our world, is through one child sponsorship at a time.
Sandi Patty, God bless you, my dear sister. Thank you for how you have let God use your talent for His kingdom and to share the good news of Jesus Christ.
Thank you so much. So love chatting with you. I kind of forgot we were doing an interview for a minute. So thank you so much, and blessings on you, and we're looking forward to heading the Memphis way.
Friends, don't forget now, Sandi Patty in concert. It's the Forever Grateful Farewell Tour this Friday night, Bellevue Baptist Church, 7 o'clock. Don't miss it, 2000 Appling Road in Cordova. I'm Byron Tyler. Thanks for listening to this edition of Mid-South Viewpoint. We'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.